Alright, we need to settle something here. The internet absolutely loves to say that gear doesn't matter, and it's become a popular trend for photographers and videographers to make videos, which are mostly filmed on expensive high-end cameras, about how gear doesn't matter. And this may be a controversial opinion, but in my experience working as an underwater and wildlife cinematographer, I can absolutely say that gear does matter. And owning and operating particular systems and having experience with certain cameras is a prerequisite to many projects. But this statement of gear not mattering does come from somewhere important for beginners starting their career. And while overall the statement in my experience is wrong, it does come from a place of good advice. Hey guys, welcome back. My name's Tom Park and I'm an underwater and wildlife cinematographer. Throughout this series, we're discussing the world of filmmaking and cinematography, where I'll teach you some of the things that I've learned over the last decade working in the film industry as an underwater and wildlife cinematographer. If you're interested in that sort of thing, subscribe and let me know down below what you film. Now, I know that talking about this is going to rustle some feathers, and it is a controversial opinion. And I'm not advocating for you to go out and spend all your money on equipment, but in my experience, working as a professional cinematographer has been the complete opposite of the photography influencer's favorite saying, gear doesn't matter. It definitely does. Now, what I do agree with this mantra is that you shouldn't let gear get in the way of you shooting and filming projects. Just because you don't own or can't afford the right lens or the newest camera doesn't mean that you should put your filmmaking or project on hold. I think there's an important distinction to make when we talk about gear and its importance. Gear definitely matters, and I'll dive into this in a minute. But not having gear or not being able to afford gear shouldn't stop you from shooting or starting out with your career with what you currently have, especially if you're coming from a more beginner level. If you can only afford a second-hand camera with a lens or two, this is more than enough to get started. Build your experience and create some great projects to learn from. But if you're turning up to a client site with an old cheap camera and a few zoom lenses, this is where I start to disagree with this mentality. Throughout my career, I've had a number of discussions with producers who ask in the first few questions what gear I own and what equipment do I have experience using. And you may be surprised to find out that these questions have a correct answer and that they are prerequisites to getting the job. If I didn't own or have experience using a particular camera system, I wouldn't have been hired. For professionals working in the field, our cameras and equipment are specialized tools that we use to complete a particular job. For each different job, we have slightly different bits of equipment that help us achieve the desired result. To use a terribly overdone analogy, if you look in the back of any tradie's ute, or if you're an American, any laborer's truck, you'll see boxes of equipment filled with different drills, screwdrivers, spanners, saws, hammers, and an assortment of different sized nails, screws, nuts and bolts, and the list goes on. Upon getting a job, the tradie will utilize a very specific set of tools to complete the task. If gear didn't matter, there would be no issue hiring a plumber to do the roofing work on my house, but just as you'd never hire a bricklayer to fix a blocked pipe as they don't have the required tools or the required knowledge on how to use the tools, you'd never hire a filmmaker for a TV show who only had an entry-level DSLR. As not only do they not have the right equipment to work on set, but they also don't have the knowledge on how these higher-end pieces of equipment operate. I do want to clearly state that owning the latest and greatest technology won't necessarily mean that your films are going to be better, and buying new gear absolutely will not make you a better filmmaker, but having ultra specialized tools and understanding and learning how they work will. Filmmaking is an art, and the more experience you have with a wider range of equipment will allow you to make more informed creative decisions on your projects, which will help you create better films. I'm not saying that you should rush out and buy the most expensive gear you can find, but it's about finding the right gear for your needs. Consider your niche, your goals, and your budget. Here are a few tips. The first is to take the time to research gear that fits your specific style of filmmaking. Understand the advantages it offers for your filmmaking niche. Number 2 is to budget wisely and invest in quality gear that aligns with your specific goals. It's better to have a few essential pieces of professional equipment than a pile of cheap gadgets or knockoff bits that will break in a few months or let you down on an important job. Number 3 is to apply a growth mindset. As you progress, allow your gear to evolve with you. Don't see it as an expense, see it as an investment in your skills and future projects. Saying gear doesn't matter will hinder your ability to learn how different pieces of equipment operate, and it will also limit your ability to progress in the world of filmmaking. Don't spend money you don't have, and don't invest in equipment widely outside your skill level. But do expand your knowledge of different equipment and how different pieces of technology may assist your filmmaking as you expand your filmmaking experience. These are specific pieces of equipment, and as you grow more as a filmmaker, you will be expected to learn how these work and have experience using them. Like I said earlier, the higher up the ladder you go, the more that gear and equipment ownership and experience becomes a prerequisite to certain jobs. Film crews will only hire filmmakers who have the experience that they seek, as there isn't time on set for you to learn how a particular camera or piece of equipment operates. If you don't have the experience, the producer will simply find someone who does. Anyways, this is my controversial entry into the gear doesn't matter debate. Gear does matter, but it should not stop you from starting out as a photographer or filmmaker, from filming your first project, or from working with more budget clients who don't necessarily require certain pieces of equipment. But if you're looking to work on higher end productions, you at the very least need to have a good understanding of the required equipment, and you likely need to be an owner operator as well. Anyways, this wraps up my controversial entry into the gear doesn't matter debate. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more, and I will catch you in the next one.